live in interesting times. Today's stories. Central Africans march in Bangui against a UN arms embargo. Libyan leader defends efforts to improve life in migrant camps. UNESCO launches the Year of Indigenous Languages. At least 3 are dead and 172 are injured in Havana tornado. Misinformation woes may multiply with deepfake videos. Acting U.S. Defense Chief meets NATO Secretary General. The U.S. announces sanctions on Venezuela's state oil firm PDVSA. Plus, the Iglesia ni Cristo reaches out to several Canadian provinces. Hello everyone, I am Jennifer Polentan, bringing you stories from around the globe, and this is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Some 3,000 citizens of the Central African Republic march in Bangui, calling for a global arms embargo to be lifted ahead of a UN meeting. The mineral-rich country, racked by ethnic and religious conflict since 2013, has been subject to a UN Security Council arms and ammunition embargo for the past 5 years. Speaking on a podium in Bangui's Central Marketplace de Martyrs, Prime Minister Matthew Simplice Sarangi said, "This is a lock that deserves to be opened. This is an embargo which strikes our defense and security forces." He said the government respects the embargo while armed groups received weapons. The people of Central African Republic cannot understand this law of double standards. The UN Security Council will on Thursday decide whether to renew the embargo, which bans weapons supplies to the country unless approved by a UN sanctions committee. The authorities in Bangui have repeatedly called on the UN to lift the embargo. The sanctions are aimed at ensuring imported weapons do not end up in the hands of militias in the corruption-prone country. The committee has previously approved shipments of weapons from France and Russia, but Chinese weapons deliveries have been blocked. A UN report last year said the recent acquisition of arms by the government has prompted factions of militias to rearm. Several protesters on Monday blamed UN Security Council member France for maintaining the embargo.
La France nous manipule beaucoup. Ça, nous sommes dans un pays souverain. Nous devons, notre armée devait nous défendre. Mais ils n'ont pas donné l'occasion à notre armée.
Les MINUSCA qui étaient là depuis ont tué les gens à leur su, à leur vue, et ils n'ont rien fait. Donc actuellement, on veut que la République centrafricaine puisse retrouver toute sa souveraineté pour que nos forces armées centrafricaines soient déployées dans tout le territoire centrafricain pour assurer la sécurité de la RCA.
The head of Libya's internationally backed government on Monday defended efforts to improve life for some 20,000 people held in its migrant camps after the Austrian president bluntly criticized conditions there.
طبعا بالتأكيد الوضع في المراكز اللواء ليس وضع مثالي. هناك كثير من الإشكاليات، كثير من التحديات، خصوصا لو نعلم الأرقام المرعبة اللي هي الأعداد الموجودة من المهاجرين غير الشرعيين على الأراضي الليبية. نتحدث على أكثر من 800 ألف مهاجر غير شرعي موجود على الأراضي الليبية. اللي موجودين بمراكز اللواء لا يتجاوز 20,000 مهاجر غير شرعي.
Al-Sarraj recognized that Sarraj's Tripoli-backed government of national accord has no control over large swaths of the country. Libya is regularly criticized by the UN and humanitarian groups over conditions in the camps, which house migrants who have tried to make the sea crossing to Europe.
نحن نعمل وفق الإمكانيات المتاحة لنا الأمنية والاقتصادية بحيث أن احنا نوفر لهم احتياجاتهم، وفي نفس الوقت منفتحين على كل المنظمات الدولية الموجودة مع البعثة العمومية لدعمنا ومساعدتنا في توفير هذه الاحتياجات. يا ريت أن معالجة هذا الأمر بشكل متكامل وبشكل جذري وبشكل شمولي. نحن نتحدث على تنمية دول المصدر، نتحدث على الضغط على دول المصدر في استعادة رعاياها.
Earlier, Sarraj met Kurz, whose government has pushed a hard line on immigration since coming to power in December 2017. Kurz said that Austria had a fundamental interest in Libya's security and development and underlined the importance of fighting both Islamic State jihadists and people traffickers. He expressed his deep gratitude to the Libyan Coast Guard, who have saved 20,000 people at sea and taken them back to Libya. In an interview with the Austrian APA agency, Sarraj had said European criticism of Libya's handling of the migration policy was unacceptable. With one indigenous language disappearing every 2 weeks, UNESCO has proclaimed 2019 as the Year of Indigenous Languages in order to raise awareness and promote their safeguarding.
Sur les 7600 langues qui aujourd'hui sont encore présentes, il y en a plus de 2300 qui sont en danger ou en voie de disparition. On parle de toutes les 2 semaines, il y a une langue autochtone qui disparaît. Donc effectivement, c'est un bilan.
Une mondialisation qui, lorsqu'elle n'est pas pensée, lorsqu'elle n'est pas régulée, amène à cela. Quand on voit que les publications scientifiques sont à 95% en anglais, ça a des conséquences sur la production du savoir, sur la diffusion du savoir. Quand la population vit de plus en plus dans les grandes villes, il y a une perte aussi de cette diversité qui va avec la relation à la nature et à la terre. Et donc tout un tas de facteurs qui poussent à la disparition des langues et contre lesquels il faut se mobiliser.
Nosotros aplicamos en la educación intercultural bilingüe. Se enseña en la lengua materna y también se enseña en la lengua que es complementaria, que es el castellano. En las universidades indígenas se enseña en lenguas indígenas. Tenemos 3 universidades indígenas. Una que se enseña en aymara, que es una lengua boliviana, en quechua, que es otra lengua, en guaraní y otras lenguas que son de la parte oriental de Bolivia.
Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel said early Monday a rare and powerful tornado that struck Havana killed 3 people and left dozens more injured. Díaz-Canel, who toured the darkened streets of Havana in the pre-dawn hours visiting emergency crews, wrote on Twitter that damage to the Cuban capital from the late Sunday tornado was severe. The tornado overturned vehicles, uprooted trees, knocked down lampposts, and left part of the city in the dark. In the city's Luyano neighborhood, storm debris, including parts of a balcony ripped off an old building, blocked the streets. As emergency sirens blared across the city, firefighters and ambulances rushed about on rescue missions, their flashing lights giving light to blackened-out areas. At the Hias de Galicia maternity, hospital staff were forced to evacuate the building due to storm damages. The tornado, spawned by a powerful storm that originated in the Gulf of Mexico, hit western Cuba with winds of up to 100 kilometers or 62 miles per hour. Armando Camares, with the Institute of Meteorology, said people described the tornado as having the sound of a jet engine and reported feeling changes in the environmental pressure when it arrived.
Dadas las afectaciones constructivas que tuvo el hospital debido al tornado, bueno, estamos evacuando a las pacientes. Ya se evacuó una primera parte, que son aquellas pacientes que necesitaban atención de primera prioridad. Y bueno, ahora estamos evacuando a aquellas pacientes que pueden movilizarse por sí mismas hacia los otros maternos de la capital.
Cuando sentimos la rabazón de aire, que como que estaba tirando cosas, ya yo lo que hice fue agarrar a la niña y meterme en la cocina y agacharme ahí en mi cocinita ahí, para que a la niña no le pasara nada, pero eso nunca visto, eso nunca se ha visto.
Coming up, misinformation woes may multiply with deepfake videos. Acting U.S. Defense Chief meets NATO Secretary General. The U.S. announces sanctions on Venezuela's state oil firm PDVSA. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will be right back.
Simulan na ang araw kasama ang buong barkada ng Pambansang Almusal. Kami na ang bahala sa masarap niyong almusal kung saan matututo tayong magluto ng easy, delicious, and affordable recipes kasama ang ating guest chefs.
Siyempre, I want it medyo healthy pa rin, na wala tayong masyadong fats or skin ng ating chicken.
Of course, meron din tayong family notes where we share tips and ideas on how to make our family happier and stronger.
Dapat marunong tayo mag-open up, di ba? Lalo na sa ating parents.
Tandaan, discipline should focus on teaching, not punishing.
Yes. Ihahain din namin sa inyo ang maiinit na balita at mahahalagang impormasyon.
Para po yun sa ikabubuti ng ating kapaligiran.
Ano yung journey natin towards the 100 years?
Kaya naman, tutok na sa nag-iisang values-oriented morning show.
Pambansang Almusal!
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 5 hanggang alas 7 ng umaga, dito lang sa Net 25.
Ang Pambansang Almusal, Pambansang Almusal.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. You may see a video of a politician speaking words he never uttered, or the face of a movie star inserted in an explicit video. Deepfake videos that manipulate reality are becoming more sophisticated and realistic due to advances in artificial intelligence, creating a potential for new kinds of misinformation with devastating consequences. As the technology advances, worries are growing about how deepfake can be used for nefarious purposes by hackers or state actors. Robert Chesney, a University of Texas law professor who has researched the topic, said, "We're not quite to the stage where we are seeing deepfakes weaponized, but that moment is coming." Chesney argues that deepfakes could add to the current turmoil over disinformation and influence operations. Chesney and University of Maryland professor Danielle Citron write in a blog post for the Council on Foreign Relations, quote, "A well-timed and thoughtfully scripted deepfake or series of deepfakes could tip an election, spark violence in the city primed for civil unrest, bolster insurgent narratives about an enemy's supposed atrocities, or exacerbate the political divisions in a society." Paul Scar, a senior fellow at the Center for a New American Security, a think tank specializing in artificial intelligence and security issues, said it's almost inevitable deepfakes will be used in upcoming elections. Scar said he does not think we will be so fortunate to get through the 2020 U.S. elections without seeing deepfakes come up. A fake video could be used to smear a candidate, but Scar said if deepfakes proliferate, it could create a liar's dividend that allows the prevalence of fakes could also enable people to deny something captured on a real video. With believable fake videos circulating, Scar said people can choose to believe whatever version or narrative they want, and that's a real concern.
I think it's very likely that over the next 2 years we will see deepfake videos play a role in political campaigns in the United States and Europe. That as this technology gets better, we're going to see people creating fake videos to try to influence a campaign one way or another, smear a candidate. And that's going to be a particular challenge for democracies to respond to.
Acting U.S. Defense Secretary Patrick Shanahan on Monday said peace talks between the U.S. and the Taliban were encouraging. Shanahan told Pentagon reporters as he waited to greet NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, "The takeaway right now, it's encouraging." Shanahan's remarks came after U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad was quoted Monday as saying the U.S. and the Taliban have drafted the framework of a deal which could pave the way for peace talks with Kabul. Khalilzad has been leading a months-long diplomatic push to convince the Taliban to negotiate with the Afghan government, but the militants have steadfastly refused, dismissing authorities in Kabul as puppets. U.S. officials have said President Donald Trump wants to withdraw about half of the 14,000 U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Shanahan did not provide details about potential U.S. troop withdrawals. In response to reporters' questions, he said he had not been tasked to prepare for a full withdrawal.
We will not stay longer than necessary, but we will not leave before we have a situation which enables us to leave or reduce the number of troops without jeopardizing the main goal of our presence, and that is to prevent Afghanistan from becoming a safe haven for international terrorists once again. I think it's a bit too early to speculate, because what we have to do now is to support the efforts to try to find a peaceful solution. we strongly support those efforts.
The United States imposed sanctions on Venezuela's state oil company, PDVSA, on Monday in the latest effort to ramp up pressure on the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said the sanctions prevented Maduro from diverting more resources from the crisis-damaged country until control in Caracas could be transferred to an interim government or new democratically elected government.
PDVSA has long been a vehicle for embezzlement, for corruption, for Venezuelan officials and businessmen. Today's designation of PDVSA will help prevent further diversion of Venezuela's assets by Maduro and will preserve these assets for the people of Venezuela where they belong. Citgo assets in the United States will be able to continue to operate, provided that any funds that would otherwise go to PDVSA instead will go into a blocked account in the United States. Refineries in the United States have already been taking steps to reduce their reliance on imports from Venezuela. Those imports have fallen substantially in recent months. We have also issued general licenses to ensure that certain European and Caribbean countries can make an orderly transition. We continue to call on all of our allies and partners to join the United States in recognizing Interim President Guaido and blocking Maduro from being able to access PDVSA funds.
When we come back, the Iglesia Ni Cristo reaches out to several Canadian provinces. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will return shortly.
I am here right now at Spanish Banks, one of Vancouver's popular beaches, where you get a great view of the Vancouver skyline and the North Shore Mountains. Make sure you tune into Digital Nest every Tuesday and Thursday. I am Luquino, your EBC Canada correspondent, and I am 1 with 25.
Hello Digital Nesters, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to watch our future features.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C., and I am Jennifer Polintan. Outreach efforts of the Church of Christ help to alleviate pressures of poverty that continue in Canada. Relief efforts took place January 18th in Montreal and January 20th in the Maritimes, Halifax, Fredericton, St. John, and Prince Edward Island. Eagle News correspondent Rosalie Castro reports.
Eastern Canada, like Quebec and the Maritime provinces, offers top tourist destinations, scenic attractions, and historical sites. Although other communities in these provinces tell a different story. According to Canadian press, poverty exists in Montreal. Campaign 2000 is still looking for solutions across Canada to end child and family poverty. A group called Roundtable Poverty Reduction has delivered this report after 18 months of study. 25% of the community population in Notre-Dame-de-Grâce is living under the poverty line. 1 out of 3 children lives in a household that is below the poverty line. It may not be easily seen, but vulnerable groups such as elderly, those with disabilities, the youth, single parents, and racialized communities are more susceptible. This weekend, members of the Church of Christ in the District of Ottawa conducted Aid for Humanity in Montreal, Quebec, and Maritime Provinces, Halifax in Nova Scotia, Moncton, Fredericton, and St. John in New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island.
We're holding this project launched by the Church Administration of the Church of Christ through the dynamic leadership of our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. So right now we're holding Aid to Humanity project, which aims to extend our love and care and help to the needy people. And we're doing this not only here in this place, but the Church of Christ is doing this all over the world.
So we invited these people from different walks of life. And yes, we have these care packages prepared by the brethren under the supervision of our district ministers. We have gathered all these different items, and then we packaged them last 2 nights ago, and then we brought them in this place. And thank God, there's a lot of people who came tonight.
Aid for Humanity is a socio-civic program of the Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ in connection with its humanitarian arm, the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation, a non-stock, non-profit, non-political organization of the Church. Hundreds of packages were distributed in all locations.
It's not because of the meal or the food, but extending that hands of fellowship. My eyes is full of tears because back home in Nigeria, I'm an illustrious son and a philanthropist. So what you're doing today is giving me more edge, pushing me to go ahead.
It's nice when you help people communicate, stay together. It's important because usually I stay alone, and it's nice.
I want to say I'm so happy for the Iglesia ni Cristo for having me and for giving me food and donate things for me and my family.
Reporting for Eagle News, this is Rosalie Castro. I am one with 25.
Thank you, Rosalie. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at Eaglenews.PH and EagleNewsLive.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Jennifer Polentan and I am one with 25.